How you doing? I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Today's video is 14 things that I've learned in the 5 years since I stopped drinking alcohol. The first one, number one, is definitely mindset. That it's 100% with mindset. You know, I don't care what else happens outside of your thing, what cravings you've got, what symptoms you've got, how much of an alcoholic you think you are. It all boils down to mindset. It boils down to mind over matter. You know, if you've got physical symptoms because of your drinking, because of all the alcohol that you've consumed over the years, if you, for instance, if you stop drinking and you're getting the shakes and all that kind of stuff, then you have to get that dealt with. But it's still a mindset thing, whether you are going to go back onto the alcohol or not, right? If you're strong and you have a strong mindset, then you can overcome anything. And most people are not in that situation. Most people, 95% of people, when they quit drinking, it's not dangerous. It's not going to kill you. The alcohol is the thing that's going to kill you at the end of the day. But it's having that mindset that you can do it first, that nothing is going to stand in your way, that this is simple, that this is something which is beneficial to you, that alcohol is not giving you anything good in this whole situation. This all comes from the mind first, right? Number two goes to that fact that quitting drinking alcohol is simple, right? But it's complicated at the same time. And what I mean by that is the first phase of doing things, quitting drinking, is very simple in the sense that if you do not put any more alcohol inside your body, you've quit, right? That's it. End of story. You've done the job, right? But the alcohol drinking is a lot more than the alcohol itself. The alcohol is just a tool. And what you're looking at is the behavioral side of things. So the habitual side of things. And a habit is broken down into several different types of behavior. It's broken down into several rituals, you know, a lot of different rituals pieced together. And it's broken down into individual behaviors. So you know, every drinking session you have to literally pick up the drink and swallow it down and all that kind of stuff, right? So once you get to that level, this is where once you break things down, you've got to do that in a lot of different areas. So it's complicated from that perspective, changing your life, filling up the gaps, that the times when you used to drink alcohol, and replacing those times with other things, you know. I always talk about it from the perspective of being self-actualized, so trying to be the best possible version of yourself that you can be. That's going to pull you forwards. You know, obviously taking any drugs, whether it's alcohol or caffeine or cocaine or heroin, they go against that basic principle, that basic aim of being self-actualized. So that's where it gets complicated, but a complicated life can also be simplistic, if you get what I mean. You know, you're aiming towards a certain level of goals, and you're dealing with things bit by bit. You know, each once you break things down to to their smallest components, you deal with those components in a very simplistic way. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated from that perspective. So it can be complicated if you think about the whole, where you've got to go and how much you've got to do. But at the end of the day, you can only do one thing at a time. So focus on that one thing, and it's very simple. Number three is that a lot of people, they want to, or they need to overload themselves with how bad things really are for them, right? I've heard this so many times, especially in the comments on YouTube, not so much on the website. But you get people going, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm this and I'm that, and I used to drink this amount and I used to drink that amount, and I can't do this and I can't do that, and you have no right telling people that they can do this or that, you know, and it's not mind over matter. It's, you know, that's bullshit, right? It's people putting roadblocks in front of themselves, putting obstacles in front of themselves and stopping themselves from moving forwards. The more negative you are with your self-talk, right, the harder it's going to be to move forwards, to move away from the bad behaviors that you're doing, right? These behaviors, they're not bad from the perspective of any moral sense, right? Drinking alcohol, moral or immoral, no, it doesn't make any difference. I'm not on that wavelength. I'm talking about it from the perspective of what you are doing in your life, what alcohol is, how alcohol is affecting your life and your abilities to have a good life, so what alcohol is doing to your body, how it's affecting the abilities of your body to function properly, right? That's where alcohol behavior is bad, right? When I say it's not about the alcohol, it is from that perspective. When you quit and you stop putting this in, then you've got to change yourself around and do things in a different way. But from that perspective, it's all about the alcohol. Number 4 is you've learned more about alcohol away from drugs than when I was using drugs. So once you stop, when you're inside the forest, it's very difficult to see outside. It's like the fish in the sea who says, one fish says to the other fish, what's it like to be swimming? And your man goes, what's swimming, Or do you like the water? And the guy says, what's water? Once you're inside the water, you don't know anything else, so you're focused on that, what's there, and you don't see you can't see your hand in front of your face, so to speak. I know I'm mixing metaphors here, but I don't give a fuck. Once you're inside the habit and you're inside the behavior, it's very difficult to see outside. And when you do get outside, you'll start to uncover things that you didn't know were there. And that's basically I always think about it from the perspective of an onion, that when you take away the outer peel of the onion, you uncover something else, and then you can peel back more layers. And it's like that with once you quit, you start to discover more and more about yourself. Good things as well as bad things. I'm not talking about only the bad things here. When you get deep down, you discover some good things about yourself. When you go through the process of quitting alcohol, you discover a whole load of good things about yourself, and you build a lot of good things about yourself. You build a lot of skills, a lot of mental skills and physical tolerances. You're able to do more things and achieve more things in your life, so it just helps. Number 5 is that you don't need any drug to get through life, regardless of your situation, where you think your situation is, or how much you think alcohol or any other drug is helping with this situation. It's not, because it doesn't do anything for the underlying situation. It only helps the feelings, the emotional part of it, right, to get out from underneath and to feel a bit better about yourself. But it's it gives a little bit on one hand and takes a massive amount from the other hand. It's like a badly used credit card. When you use a credit card, you pay for it on one day, and then if you don't pay it by the end of the month, they want a whole shitload more money off you, and those credit card debts can just mount up and mount up. And it's the same thing when you're taking a drug like this. Just the effects can last and mount up and mount up. So you don't need a drug to get through life. Anything that you can achieve with a drug can be achieved without a drug, and much more beneficial ways than you can ever get with a drug. Number 6 is that drugs alter your view of reality, and not in a good way. Once you start doing this from an early age, you start to realize that you can overcome certain things. Like for me, it was shyness when I was a kid. It was, when I was starting out drinking or growing up, and I realized that I could take this drug and it would make me feel like I'd overcome the shyness, or make me feel like I was grown up. Did no such fucking thing, It just changed my reality about things in a bad way, because I never learned, or it hampered my learning on how to deal with shyness, right? Or how to deal with trying to be grown up, because all I was doing when I was getting drunk as a young kid, was stupid things, just stupid things. I'm not going to go into the amounts of stupid things that I've done throughout my life because of alcohol and because of a drug, other drugs. But I'm telling you now, it changes your reality. It changes your reality because you believe that you get into the position where you're no longer able to relax without alcohol. You're no longer able to sleep without alcohol. You're no longer able to do so many different things in your life without drinking alcohol. Like I was saying earlier on, even my work was being I was thinking about drinking alcohol. So that's number 6. Number 7 is the short-term gratification thing. That's all a drug is ever going to give you, right? And you don't realize this until you're sort of off the booze, that there is a short-term give, right? So you get something like it covers up your emotions in that sense. You don't have to think about things, and it helps you to do what you want in the short term. But there's a long-term pain involved with all this drug taking, and I'm not talking about just the physical stuff. I'm talking about the mental stuff as well, the psychological things, the life things. When you're shortcutting these skills, like I was saying earlier on, this learning process, then you don't learn. You never learn how to do these things, so you never become that complete person. Like I say, my goal in life is just to try and become the best version of myself as I can. That's all I've got. I can't be anyone else. I am me, right? Everyone else's body is taken up, and I can't get into somebody else's body, no matter how much I might think, oh, it would be good to be that person or that person. I can't. It's just me. So I've got to work with what I've got, you've got to work with what you've got, The next one is that you don't realize how much brainwashing there is actually out there until you stop, right? And then you start to see things that you didn't see before. There's a thing called cognitive dissonance, which is how, you've got two competing things in your head. For instance, that cigarette smoking is bad for you, alcohol is bad for you, as a logical thing, but from an emotional point of view, you want to keep doing it. So you've got these two opposing ideas in your mind causing a conflict. And the cognitive dissonance is where you think up stories in your head to bridge that gap, to make it seem like you're doing the right thing, that it's not as bad as it seems, I only smoke 1 cigarette a day, or I only drink 2 glasses of wine a day, but in actual fact the glasses of wine are massive, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of this is to do with the brainwashing that's been happening from day one. But once you stop drinking, you start to see other things. You're freed from that cognitive dissonance. You don't have that internal conflict anymore. So you can see things from a different perspective, and you start to see life around you opening up, and you start to see other people and how they're drinking. You start to see how they're behaving with drink. Even the people who you thought were quiet drinkers or normal drinkers, you start to see the drug user in these people, The next one is you're in control, right? Except on drugs, right? Life is basically, you've got 2 different areas or 3 different areas, depending on what you look at. You've got the things that are in your control, and you've got the things that are outside of your control, right? And then you've got like this grey area in between. And when you're taking a drug, you're giving away your control to an external force, right? The alcohol or any other drug, right? You're introducing a chemical inside your body which is going to do something to you, right? Which is altering your perceptions. It's altering the way you think about things. It's altering the way you're doing things, right? So once you stop drinking, you gather back a lot of that control. In most cases, it's very, very slowly that you do this, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's something which is, that's why I said earlier on, it can be simple and it can also be complicated as well. So the simplistic thing is you don't put the alcohol in, as long as you don't put the alcohol in, blah, blah, blah. Complicated is that you've got to overcome these things bit by bit by bit by bit, right? But you are slowly but surely gaining your control back. Number 10 is that life is worth living, as far as I'm concerned. It's not when you're on drugs. As soon as you start taking drugs, that's when, my life just felt like I was pissing it down the toilet, every time I walked into a pub, and started drinking beers and going, spending my days doing this, spending my evenings doing this, spending the next day overcoming all this stuff, and it was just this cycle of drinking and then recovery and then drinking and recovery, and it was just a never-ending shit fest of stuff that was taking me in a direction which wasn't good, right? So since I've stopped drinking, my life has just exploded in so many different areas, in so many different ways. And I feel like, things are just, I can't name one area of my life which was better when I was drinking. Let's put it like that. There isn't one single area where I can honestly say, yeah, maybe that was better when I was drinking. None of it. So your whole life will improve. Not when if you quit drinking and you are pining for the alcohol all the time, right? This is, if you keep thinking about the alcohol and you're thinking that you're missing something and you want to go back to that, your life isn't improved at all. But I'm talking about it from the perspective of changing your whole mindset, changing your whole way of looking at things, getting rid of all the bullshit brainwashing, right? And brainwashing yourself, right, into the life that you want to live. That's what it all boils down to, right? So life is worth living. And the last four are sort of to do with the benefits of quitting. So, health-wise, like I said earlier on, I felt like I was on my way out when there was one stage when I was drinking. I've talked about this before, but I was in bed, and I had this a few times. It wasn't just the once. But I'd be in bed after a lot of alcohol, and obviously crash out in bed. You'd be fast asleep within no time at all. So let's say that I crashed out 12 o'clock at night, and then 3 o'clock in the morning the alcohol would be starting to wear off, but my body would be going in fucking fits, and would be just like the body was desperately trying to get rid of the alcohol and going through all the withdrawal and all this kind of stuff, all the consequences of drinking. And a few times when I woke up at that time in the morning, I thought that I was having a heart attack. I had to get up out of bed, and I was shitting myself, and just in general, my life wasn't good. I was trying to get out doing exercise and stuff like that. I mean, I was working in the forestry at the time, so I was trying to do all that kind of stuff. I was trying to eat healthy, but it was like one step forwards, two steps back. It was all this. No matter how much progress you make forwards in a general direction of health, drinking alcohol is always going to drag you back because it's detrimental to your body. It's not good. Like I say, those nights where I did drink 20, 25 pints, it would take at least 48 hours before my body got rid of the alcohol, right? And that's nothing to do with how much time it took for my body to deal with the damage of those 25 pints, right? And that could have taken weeks or months even, but I continued to put the alcohol in, so I feel much healthier now than I ever did when I was drinking. I feel younger than I did when I was drinking. I feel great now. 5 years into it, it's just it's been the one thing that has really they talk about acai berries and this fucking thing that you can put into your body and this thing that can give you this special ingredient. Fuck that shit, Look at what you're putting into your body anyway and stop putting the shit in, and that's including, I've not only changed my body with the alcohol, but I've changed it with the food that I'm eating, the exercise that I'm getting, and it's an accumulative effect, you accumulate one thing on top of the other, right? It becomes like a cornerstone habit. So you do one thing that's right, you take one day at a time, you get past that day and then you feel better the next day, right? Your body is overcoming the toxins and it's repairing itself, and then you feel better the next day and the next day and the next day and so on and so forth. And then you start thinking about how else you can make these changes in your life and how you can make them stick. And it's then that you start making the real progress, because you start to think about things from the mindset of somebody who wants to move forwards naturally with their life, right? To try and expand their lives towards that person, that self-actualization person, the best possible version of yourself, right? With finance, it's sort of the same thing. It's a very similar thing. Since I've stopped drinking, my finances, you're not spending the money on the alcohol. So it doesn't take a brain box to work out that from that perspective, you're going to save money. You could be spending it on other things, but at least you've got it there to spend on other things. But you've also got the peripheries as well. So while you're drinking, you might be spending money on other things that you don't, you might be shopping on Amazon or something like that and buying shit that you wouldn't have normally bought, when you were in the right state of mind. You could be doing it the next day, Same thing with junk food and stuff, the amount of junk food that I put into my body when I was hungover and stuff it was unreal, But then there's the other side of it, which is your capacity to earn. And that's, when you add it up, not just on a day-by-day basis, but on a lifetime. If you are handicapping your mind and handicapping your body with a toxin, right, day after day, week after week, what is that doing to your capacity to earn? Right? You can still go out and you can say, well, yeah, I go to work and stuff, I get up in the morning and I do my day's job and stuff, and it don't interfere with me. But where could you have been if you weren't pouring this toxin into your body? What could your brain have conjured up in order for you to move towards something that you really want to do, or something that gives you a lot more passion about your life, a lot more confidence in yourself, and a lot more just general well-being? It gives you a lot more buzz in your life. Where could you have been? I was working worked for myself for so many years now, since I was a kid. I've had a couple of jobs and stuff to sort of maintain things, but I've always had side things where I've been working for myself, and actually the jobs were the side things that were funding the businesses that I was trying to run. And I was never really successful as a businessman, I'm not saying that I was, until I stopped drinking, right? And now it's sort of, I'm going on to just a different level of thinking about things and learning things, because I've got the time to do it, I've got the patience to do it, right? You start to build up the finances to do it, right? So you start to be able to earn more money that you can pump back into your business. The more money you can pump back into it, you can, look at Alcohol Mastery from day one and you see how things have progressed. If I was a drinker and I was doing a similar project, obviously not with Alcohol Mastery, how would things have progressed? They wouldn't be anywhere near where they are now, right? I'm not saying this is a final product or a finished product or anything like that. It's still a work in progress, but same thing goes with relationships. My relationships is one of the most satisfying things in my life, that my relationships have improved, right? In particular, my relationship between me and my son. Not that it was bad, right? We always had a good relationship. We were always very close, but it's become very much more the way it should be, right? I am the mentor, right? I am older than my son. I'm a father. My job is to mentor my son and to be the best possible role model that I can be, right? To sort of say, well, this is the way that it should be done. But not only to say that, but to act it as well, and to do it, day by day, go through my life and act in a certain way, and to say, this is the way that you should hold yourself as you're going through life. This is the way that you should conduct yourself, right? From a personal point of view, and from a point of view of looking outwards and stuff, and how you treat other people and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that when you're drinking and smoking. It just gives off a bad vibe. It's one of the worst things that I've ever done in my life, right, was encourage my son to drink, encourage him to smoke. I wouldn't have encouraged him in a million years to take heroin, or to smoke marijuana, or to take cocaine or acid, or any of those things, right? Why is alcohol and cigarettes any different? It's not. We're just brainwashed like sheep to believe that it's different. And like sheep, we lead our children into the same fate. So, that relationship for me is the most important relationship in my life because of that. I'm responsible for, I'm his father, I'm responsible for being that role model. I'm responsible for what I project out to him, what lessons I teach him by who I am, And, all the other relationships, my relationship with my partner is just, it's never been better, I've never been closer to my partner than I have been now. Same as my other relationships with my family and stuff like that. And, number 14, I think I've always believed in my own future. I've always thought about my future and thought, well, the future is bright, but as I said, one step forward, two steps back, you eventually start eroding that kind of thing. It's the same thing when you have your own values, and eventually when you are a drug taker like this, you start to erode into your values and you chip away at them bit by bit. And it's the same thing with your own future. You start to erode and chip away at your own self-confidence, your own belief in your own abilities to be able to do those things, to get to the future that you want to get. And eventually you stop believing in your own future. You start to think, well, look around you. Look around at the people in your life that are drinkers, especially the older versions, right? What are they doing? Have they given up on their lives? And they might not say this, but, you can judge, as I say, by actions, speak louder than words. And just have a look at the other people in your life. Now I'm 51, I'm heading into 52 next year, and I can tell you now that my future, to me, is looking really bright, because I'm committed to making myself better every day, right up until the day that I die. As long as I've got breath in my body and I can move, and even when if I lost the use of my legs or whatever, I'm still going to be looking at that from this perspective, or looking forward. So, and that's all to do with having quit drinking alcohol. So I'm going to leave it there. I'll just say, you make your own future. You make your own rules in this life for yourself. For any time soon, alcohol is going to be a legal drug, right? So nobody's going to force you not to drink. The only time somebody's going to be able to insinuate their own rules onto you as far as alcohol is concerned is when you step outside of the laws and you do something which is bad and you get done for it, or you get done because you've done something to your parent, you've said something to somebody, or but in general, it's your choice whether you drink or not to drink. It's in your control whether you drink or not to drink. Whether you drink from the time you get up in the morning, you drink every single day, and you consider yourself to be an irredeemable alcoholic, it is still your choice. You still have to lift the thing up and put it into your mouth. There's nothing that anybody can do that's going to force you to be able to do that. So it's down to you, it's down to your choice. If you're at that level where you feel like you can't stop and stuff, it's your choice whether to get the help or not to get the help, right? Simple as that. But most people are not in that position. Most people are just in a position where they are habitually drinking, and they have this as part of their lives and stuff, So just remember that it's always your choice, and no matter where you go in this life or what you do, it's your choice that brings you there. Until next time, if you want anything at all, any help at all, come on over to Alcohol Mastery. We've got a lot of videos over there. Sign up for the Alcohol Mastery Starter Pack. There's a couple of different video courses that'll help you to overcome the initial shock of quitting drinking alcohol, overcome that brainwashing that society has enforced on us for the whole of our lives. It's absolutely free, so just leave your first name and your email address and I'll start sending you out the videos. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Take really good care of yourself. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Onwards and upwards. Take care. Bye-bye now.